Famous author and editor Margaret Sangster once said, "No one should teach who is not in love with teaching." Debbie Scott Caranda, or Auntie Debbie, or Auntie D, as she is affectionately called, is a perfect example of this quote. Auntie Debbie is a 45-year veteran educator. She is a college professor and the proprietress and principal of a leading private school, School of Prime Systems, which was established in 1978 in Liberia. The long-lasting effects of a 14-year civil war had a huge impact on Liberia's education system. According to UNICEF, the conflict destroyed or damaged close to 60% of school buildings, including water and sanitation facilities, which are key to keeping children, especially girls, in school. And let's not forget, many teachers fled the country. But there were those who stayed and those who returned, those unsung sheroes and heroes. Auntie Debbie is one of our unsung sheroes, a person who does great deeds but receive little or no recognition for them. Although they may not be looking for that recognition, we owe it to them to recognize and celebrate them.
Hey.
Okay, everybody, welcome to Salamatu and Friends. And today my guest is actually someone who is extremely special. So me and so many people within my age group, I should say. She's an educator. I always tell people this, her school, the school she established was the first school I attended. I don't remember much, but most people who do remember, most of my friends, my age anyway, they have great things to say. Most of the people we know went on to do big things. So this woman has invested in a field that so many people talk about, the investment in Liberia. When we talk about investment, first of all, people think about, the rubber industry, the farming, the mining, but two sectors that is extremely important and crucial are the health and, of course, the education sector. And she has invested in our education system for 45, right? What, 40, how many years? Like 40 something years, 45 years. She has invested in the education system. So I want to welcome, her name is Debbie Scott Caranda, but we know her as Auntie Debbie. So if I start saying Auntie Debbie, just know that is affection. So welcome and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I was literally like sending messages to some of your past students. I'm like, you know what? We need to say some special messages. And everybody was so excited, but I think on my part, I waited too late to do it. So, but we'll still get it. And we'll still let everybody know that Auntie Debbie is a very special person to all of us. So thank you again for taking time to come on.
All right.
Now that I've said a little bit about you, can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I'm a teacher by profession. I haven't always wanted to be a teacher, believe it or not. I remember telling my grandmother when I was living with her that I would never be a teacher because teaching was a poor man's job. So as you see, life would have it. I'm not poor, I'm not rich, but I'm okay.
Yes.
So you never know the future. You never know the future. But I started off wanting to be a nurse. So I guess I had that compassion still in me. I wanted to be a nurse, but when I was in high school, because I went to Tubman High, and I got sick. And those days when you miss your semester exam, you have to drop out. Not like now. So I had to drop out second semester. And my grandmother said, "You're not going to stay home, doing nothing. You got to go with me." She was a teacher. And so I used to go with her to her class, and it kind of like grew on me. And then, she asked me if I wanted to be a teacher, and I still said no. Okay. But eventually, at some point in time, it did grow on me, and here I am.
Yeah, and not just a teacher, but the proprietress of SBS, School of Crime System, which was established in 1978. So,
Yes.
people say, oh, hi, the age. No, let me tell you. 1978, I was 2 years old.
Yes.
Yeah, so imagining the time frame that you actually started SBS. I know 2 years later we had the coup d'état, and but you've been here 1970, 1979, 1980, and of course 1990. What I mean, I don't even know how to ask this question, but I'm like, how do you do it? How did you manage to, just kind of stay consistent? That SBS is still around and still a good school. So it's not just around; it's still a good school.
Okay. Well, my intention from the beginning was for SBS to be a quality school. Because a lot of times, back in that day, a lot of parents would send their children, who could afford it, would send their children abroad. But we had parents who wanted to keep their children in Liberia and still have a good school.
Yeah.
And so that's when I opened SBS in 78. And I opened with 12 students. And then the next year, it just went from 12 to 125, and then it just escalated. So my intention was to always have a high standard for SBS, and I will always keep that. We've kept it up to the cool time. We closed in 1990 because of the war, and then I came back in 2005 to reopen what I call the second generation SBS. You are the first generation.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been easy to keep the standards up. But if you determine, like I just determined, nothing is going to lower the standards.
Yeah.
And I have a record of every student who has left here and gone abroad, whether it's America or Ghana or England, they've always passed the entrance. I haven't had anybody who didn't make it.
Yeah.
So that tells you that we are our international standard, not just international school, international standard. And that's so important. Quality makes all the difference.
Yeah. And I mean, if anybody who's watching this know about our educational system, people would tell you, well, it's one of the worst in the world. There's not a lot of attention that's given to that sector. And of course, yeah, we had a war. We had a 20-something year war. We're still in that stage where we're recovering from it and trying to rebuild the educational system. But yet, teachers and nurses, people always say you got to have the passion to be in that line of work. Because at that point, now, most people would have said, what, this thing here, nobody taking this seriously. I'm getting out of it. But the fact that you have remained in that, not just as an educator, but a businesswoman, you had a business for over 45 years. We don't have a lot of businesses in Liberia for 40 years. So
lasted. Okay, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so the fact that you
have to be a trailblazer, you have to be a person who, when you started something, you continue, and hope that other people will follow suit.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kept me going. Is like, when I came back in 2005, it was before the elections, and a lot of people were telling me, why don't you wait till after the election? I'm like, no, the school year starts in September, so I need to get started now. And, I always follow my heart. I always pray over everything. So if God says go for it, you go for it. And that's just how I've been traveling.
Amen. Amen. Now, I want to talk about some of your students, your experiences that you've had. You said that most of the students who actually leave out of there, they are able to pass international standard.
Yeah.
I know a few of them. I know they've done good in their lives. But I know a few of them who have done just good things, who are doing good things, I should say. What are some of the memories that you have for some of your students
Oh.
overall?
I think overall is they we're like a family. The
Yeah.
school is like a family. Okay. I think the largest we ever had like 450 students. And but yeah, everybody knows everybody. And the older ones take care of the younger ones. The teachers are now we call them aunties and uncles in the lower grades. In the higher grade, they're still Mr. and Mrs. Okay. Um, but I think the memories are good for the children because you enjoy school. You
Yeah,
learn and you enjoy.
yeah,
Now, the discipline is there. Now, no joke. I believe in discipline. Without discipline, you can't have a successful life.
yeah,
And you've got to learn the discipline when you're younger so that as you grow older, it's already in you and you can pass it on to your children and your family and so forth. But a lot of them who are, especially my boys, who are who are very successful now, were very challenging in school
yeah.
to the point where they had to be extremely disciplined. But look where they are now,
Yes.
you know? And I used to ask them, well, what is it they enjoyed the most about SPS? Ironically, nobody said the academics. They all said the color days and the popcorn. I'm like, okay,
Aw.
exactly, what I was looking for. But I guess they assumed that the academic is there anyway. That's
Yeah.
ordinary. That's ordinary. It'll be there. But the extra things are what they remember. And um, I'm proud to say that we have two generations, of SPS out there. And I can say 90%, 95%, like you said, are doing wonderful things.
Yeah.
Like you. And quite a few of you are home. That makes a difference.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them in America and Europe and other countries, but I have a lot of my SPS children are here making a difference in how Liberia is being run now. Because you are the future. We're going to depend on you all to shape a new Liberia. So I had that pride in me for that.
Aw. And I will say, yeah, one of the things you mentioned is family. And, when you start talking to students who attended SBS, because I've talked to a lot of the students my age group. I haven't really talked to the new generation, but a lot of the students my age group, that's the first thing, that Auntie Debbie, it really is a family, knowing your sons and even knowing your late mother. Most of the students talk about that family aspect of it. And I want to kind of go back for those who don't know. And Debbie, you came from America. You came from America to Liberia, and like most people, you stayed here. This became your home. This became your family. So even though you were young, can you tell us a little bit about that experience? Leaving the U.S. and pretty much coming here and making it.
My grandmother came over, Mrs. Dinkins, Grace Dinkins came over, I think in the 50s, 1950s, I don't remember exactly, but in the 50s. And she was a teacher. And she came and she settled. Her plan was to come to Liberia because she had two younger sons to raise, besides because the girls were already grown. And she just wanted to leave America because of the same problem America's having right now.
Mm.
The same racism. Yeah, the same racism. So that's why she came over. And then she got extremely sick with malaria. And, the old people sometimes refuse to go to the hospital. So they called my family, Reverend Faulkner, called my family in California and said, somebody needs to come over and put this old lady in the hospital or she's not going to make it.
Aw.
And my father, Al Thomas, was an engineer contractor. And he was like the only one in the family at that time who was not really tied down with the job. So he came over and he, took care of my grandmother, got her in the hospital and everything. But then he stayed. He got a job with mobile. He's in public works. He was an engineer. And then my mother just said, you know what? One day she jumped up and said she was sending me and my younger brother, Malcolm, to my grandmother in Africa. So I thought she was joking, But when we started getting passports and getting all these shots and stuff, I said, I think Mom is serious about this thing. So that's how we came. We came to come live with my grandmother on Camp Johnson Road and Perry Street there. And she came a year later because it looked like she had planned this thing. My mom had planned this along. It looked like she sent us ahead, and then she packed up everything and sold off everything, and then she came a year later. And so that's how I came. I was like 15, my brother was like 13, and been here since. So I went to Tubman High, I went to University of Liberia, I got my first jobs here. I had my children, the earlier children, older children here. So Liberia is my home.
Liberia is your home, and we thank the United States. We thank your mother for making that decision to send you here.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, good things. Now, of course, we love Liberia, but we also know it can be very challenging. We joke all the time. My friends and I would say, you got to love this place to be here. You literally have to love it, especially if you're trying to do business.
And, really?
And then in your case, you're doing business in a field that even though we say it's important, but we don't really give it a lot of attention. Yeah. So what has been some of the challenges or the major challenges that you had to face?
I guess the major challenge is the financial aspect.
Yeah.
Because for the services that we offer, we should be charging a lot more than we do.
Yeah.
But we don't, because we have to keep, you have to keep a minimum. You can only afford so much. It's like going to college and paying hundreds of thousands of dollars. You wonder if it's worth, are you getting your money's worth? So I think that was one challenge we've had. And it's just a matter of our parents paying their tuition on time. That depends on how the little national society is going too,
Yeah.
But I think that's the largest challenge. The second challenge is when we have students who take the entrance to come in as a new student. It's so disheartening that they just not qualified to make that class or even the class below. And so that kind of like tells you that, a lot of schools out there are not really doing the job they should be doing. And though it hurts me to turn them down because, they're lacking in the academic level to be in that grade, at least they know now what they should be knowing, Yeah. I think those are the two other things. The third one is probably being able to keep up with trained teachers. For me, I train my teachers. Some of them come with the methodology of the teacher certificate. Some have degrees in education, and some have degrees not in education, but in a field, a content area, and then they have to be trained with the methodology. So I think that would be the third area, the training. Other than that, it's just a general challenge day to day.
But you managed to do it, so you are a trailblazer. The finances, entrance into the school, the testing, and of course the training of teachers. Now, when we're looking at some of these challenges that you're facing, how do we address policies regarding ensuring that you have more maybe qualified teachers, that you have, and I'm talking from the top level, you as an educator who's been there for over 40 years, what do we as a country or government need to do to pay more attention maybe to the teachers to
Yeah.
ensuring that we have more students, that we, I guess, have a set curriculum for all of the schools, that, you know, students are able to move from one school to another, or if they leave Liberia, like the students from SBS, go out there and they're able to compete with children outside of Liberia. So what are some of the policy areas do you think government needs to look at?
Well, definitely for sure, when you look at trained teachers, you can have a modern school building with all the furnishings and all the equipment and all the visual aids and everything. If you don't have a trained teacher, your children are not going to learn. So that's number one. We got to invest in the teachers who are there. And I think probably right now the teaching profession is not like looked at as a profession, because some people, when they're looking for a job, they say, oh, let me go teach. And I think that breaks the system down also, because everybody can't teach. Teaching is not just talking. Teaching is transferring knowledge.
Yeah.
And though you may know math and be a math major, if you don't know how to transfer that math to somebody else, then you are not a teacher. And I think that's why it's important that teachers take training so they get the methodology, you know, to know how to teach.
Yeah.
If we don't train the teachers, our system is not going to get better. We can build new buildings, we can put in the furniture and, you know, everything else, but if the teachers don't know what to teach and how to teach, we're going to be at a standstill. I have a philosophy, and my university students know that, is you can't teach what you don't know. And you can't teach what you don't know, and either you know it or you don't know it. So we have teachers who teach only what they know. That's why the curriculum is not fully implemented. We have a good curriculum. We have a good curriculum. It's not being implemented. It's not being followed. And main reason why it's not being followed is because if I'm a math teacher and I don't know fractions, I skip the fractions and go to something else that I do know. So those children don't get taught fractions in that grade. And the next grade, who knows? It might be another topic that the teacher doesn't know. So that's what we think we have to strengthen, training our teachers so they can implement the curriculum so our children can benefit from this classroom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, investing in teachers. I think maybe that needs to be the core message: invest in teachers, sink it down their throats so they understand. When I hear people say, oh, education is important, or I hear maybe government per se say that, and then you look at the national budget and it does not reflect what has been said.
Yeah.
And looking at national budgets across the world, it is said that where government put the most money is where the interest is as a nation. So for instance, you look at America, most of the national budget is towards defense. You look at South Africa, most of their national budget is towards primary education. And unfortunately, you know, in Liberia, when you look at our national budget, is towards administrative costs for government. So perhaps, you know, that thinking that if you're going to protect or improve the educational system, invest in the teachers. And in terms, you know, it would translate.
That's it. That's it. That's the only way. And we have a drama that we usually perform every now and then called the Battle of Professions. So it's like, you know, all the different professions in the world come up and try to prove to everybody why they are more important than everybody else.
Oh, nice.
At the end, the teacher comes in and says, okay, you, the doctor, you, the lawyer, you, the engineer, you, whoever you are, you would be nothing if you didn't have me, the teacher. Think about that. Nice. So we have to keep teachers going because teachers take care of the future.
Yeah.
Right now we have doctors and we have lawyers and we have engineers and we have farmers and we have pilots and we have all the different areas of professions, but that's now. What happens 10 years from now? Where are those doctors and farmers and engineers coming from? They're coming from the classroom. They're coming from the teachers.
Yeah.
So we've got to learn to invest in teachers so that we can have a future, and have a good future, a promising future.
A very promising future. Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then, of course, one of the other areas of, that we see is less girls in school. And of course, you know, it's not a Liberia problem per se, but it's a problem in Liberia. Especially, we had the first female president, and I think everybody just kind of figure out that because we had the first elective female president, all of the women and girls issue taken care of or should have been. But yet you're finding less girls in school. I know that's a difficult question to say, you know, what do you think we need to do to ensure that we have more, again, you know, I always say maybe we need to tell the government what they need to do. And of course, you know, some of us can hold them to the fire, but what they need to do to ensure that we have not just the boys, that the girls are actually in the classroom and they're
Yes.
not just finishing primary school, that they're advancing to
We're all the
higher
way.
education. Yeah.
That's a good question. You know, we live in a male-dominated culture,
Amen.
and not to say all the males don't accept females coming in as a counterpart or quote unquote competition, but because there is that male dominance, you have to break that line, break that wall, so to speak. And uh, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf broke that wall for presidency.
Yeah.
But below presidency, like the legislature and then down to other government officials and then just leaders in society, we are making a little bit of progress, like a tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
But it's tip of the iceberg is nothing. But it is important because it lets the younger girls see that, oh, you know, if I go to school, I can be like Salmatun. I can be like Auntie Debbie. I can be like President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. It gives them motivation and inspiration to say, okay, I'm going to go to school. They have to want to go to school first. The second thing is they need sponsorship. Most households, and even with with SBS, most households will quicker send their sons to school or pay more, school fees for their sons than their daughters.
Yeah.
That's something we have. That's where we are. And I know we have some groups and organizations that cater to young girls when it comes to counseling and just talking to them and, kind of like showing them the way to grow. That's one side of it. But the other side is who pays their school fees? Who's going to actually put them in school and keep them in school? I would like to see organizations do that. Because if you don't have the organizations to do it, it probably will not get done on a larger scale. Households will not do it. We can encourage them, because I've seen households where you have children, girls who are on scholarships, and they're going to school, they're not paying for anything, but when they come home, there's a jealousy factor there, because you're going to school and I'm not going to school, or there's a factor of you think you're better than everybody now because you're going to school, and those little negative, factors can make the girl want to drop out, even though it's being paid for. So it's not just the paying for the fees, it's also the whole environment.
Yeah.
It's almost like you got to get a family. Yeah, I hate to say that, but that's basically what it is. That's what I've been experiencing. So if we have people who will take care of the girls and get them to a certain level where they can get on their own, and continue on their own, that would be wonderful. But on the other hand, we do have girls who are in school who have an issue with, grades and what am I called? Sex for grades. Is that what it is? And money. Yeah. That's a major issue. And it affects the girls, obviously, more than the boys.
Yeah.
So that's a problem they have. If you get them in school, how to keep them in school. So I think those are the challenges for girl education. But we shouldn't stop just because it's a challenge.
Yeah.
But I would like to appeal to all organizations or individuals. Sponsor a girl child. Sponsor doesn't mean just pay the school fees. It also means take an interest in them as to what happened to them after school, during the weekend, the whole scene.
Yeah. And and it's not just for the girls. Every research that people have done on, girls' education, that
Mhm.
African saying of if you educate a girl, you educate a village. It's not just a saying; it's a fact. It's been
Yes.
proven. In our little African villages, yeah, we have these parables, but these are facts. These are
Yes.
actual facts that the Western world have researched, and they found out that if you invest in the girl child, they come back, they take care of the economy. Every economy that's doing well, if you look at the girl to boy ratio of within the educational sector, you see that girls are doing well. It translates into the economic factor. So
Yeah.
there's a good thing for everybody. It is a good reason for everybody to invest in a girl child. So uh, but
I like
let's
that.
talk about something. We're running out of time, but I want to talk about your new show. I love the innovation behind it. We've been locked up behind this doggone COVID,
Right.
and I absolutely love the innovation behind it. So if you can just tell us in the next 2 minutes about your new venture.
I had this idea 6 years ago during Ebola time.
Mm.
But then by the time I kind of like got it off the ground, I was coming back home and schools were opening. So I just left it. As my son Bunches that reminded me, he said, "Mommy, why you don't, pick up your come and learn it?" I said, I don't know. He said, "You got time and you got TV." And I said, "Okay." So I said, "But I don't want to just do just teaching. That's boring, And I know what it's like to have a boring teacher. And I want to do language arts because that's our major weakness as far as academic. So that's when I decided, okay, let me do a little proverb first, start it off. And then we do the story time. Everybody loves stories, regardless. And then we go into the comprehension, the grammar, and the real actual teaching. But I decided to do fairy tales because, fairy tales are the classical.
Yeah.
They never get old. I mean, Sleeping Beauty,
Yes.
Cinderella, and you'd be surprised how many children do not know the fairy tales. We got some adults too, I have to admit, do not know the fairy tales. So I said, okay, let me just concentrate on the fairy tales, and we use that for the comprehension, proverbs or morals. It's very moralistic program if you listen to it. My proverbs got morals. My story time has a moral at the end. I try to make sure that children know it's not just about learning; it's also about values.
Yes.
So it's not only for children; it can be for adults too. I'm
And
enjoying it.
most
It's a
of them
lot of
listen.
yeah. But and I hope I have time to follow the series because I would love to do it for the curriculum for the year. And then that kind of like lays it out. There'd be another option to learning instead of having the classroom. And right now it's on YouTube. Yay!
Yay! YouTube.
Come and learn it. Come and learn it.
But I
So
will go ahead and put the link up when we're done. I'll put the link up so people can go ahead and share it. And if some of the banks are listening, some of the service industry where you have a lot of people gathering, I beg you need to put it up so they themselves when they're standing in line at the bank, they can see and
yeah.
all of us need to be educated.
Somebody told me they saw it at the pharmacy. They were at the pharmacy and they saw the show on and said, "Oh," and they stood there listening instead of buying what they're supposed to buy. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it needs to be everywhere. You're standing, and I keep saying the bank because that's why I see a lot of people, people who need a good fairy tale in their life. But yeah. Anna Debbie, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're running out of time.
All right, dear.
But thank you so
Thank you,
much.
I
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
service. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the next generation. Thank you for the past generation. And I'm sure, we're going to do our best to always make you proud. Because when people start talking, the first thing I said, I'm my first school.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, everybody who's attended will do our best to make you proud. Keep doing what you're doing. We love it. And again, I will go ahead and put the link up for the Into Debbie show. Yeah, I got the link. So I'll go ahead and put it up. Yeah, but thank you so much.
Thank you too, dear. I'm proud of you and everybody, so keep up the good work.
Thank you. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, love you, dear.
Love you too. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Come and learn it. Learn it by watching. Learn it with your friends. School might be closed, but learning never stops. Come and learn it. An education-based TV program that targets grades 1 through 12. Designed to present basic language arts skills using topics from Liberia's national curriculum to reinforce comprehension, grammar, and vocabulary. So, come and learn it. Hosted by Auntie D.
I'm Auntie D. Tell your friends to come and learn it.
Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. and Saturdays at 9 a.m. What are you waiting for? Come and learn it. Only on Hot TV Channel 12.